Hi, this is Kerry Heffernan, the chef at Grand Banks, showing you how to cook some West Robins oysters on the grill. It's very complicated. Watch. Hot grill, cleaned oysters. The hard part is done. So the idea is to just keep them with the cup down, nice and flat, under a pretty high heat. And this isn't going to take very long, between 3 to 5 minutes, depending on the size of the oysters. Okay, so we've got the first signs of some of these guys opening up. That's all you're looking for, is that tiny little crack. That's enough. These guys are all good to go. See that? Just a little opening there. Hi, this is Kerry Heffernan, chef at Grand Banks. And what we're going to do today is to do some char-broiled oysters that you can do right on the grill at home with some West Robins oysters, a compound butter, a little minced kale, and some toasted panko crumbs. So the first thing you do is, as in lesson 1, we're going to grill those oysters until they just open. You get the knife into that little crack, cut the top off, and there you can see you've got a cooked oyster ready to go. We're going to drain off some of that liquid. Okay. Then we're going to make our compound butter. So I've got a little bit of basil, which I've cut into fine shreds, also called chiffonade. I'm going to show you a technique about mincing chives. So you want to gather them as tightly as you can in your left hand. Take a sharp knife in the right, and then in a push stroke, just moving the knife forward. I'm going to cut them once, cleanly and finely. And the great thing about this is that what you're going to do is to have minced chives and not crushed ones. So if the knife isn't sharp or the bunch isn't tight, you end up with that green juice all over the board. And the flavor of the chive goes into the board and not into your compound butter in this case. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is to take softened butter. We've got a full stick here, unsalted, because we know the oysters are kind of salty. We're going to take our minced chives, basil, and garlic greens. So you don't have fresh garlic right now. We have the tops of the green garlic. And we're going to zest some lemon and lime. So when you're zesting, I use a microplane. You just want that beautiful, very outer skin. You can see it's, in the case of the lemon, it's just only yellow. You're not getting any of that white. The white is what's known as the pith, and it can be quite bitter. So we want to avoid that. Do the same thing with the lime. Both these pieces of citrus have been rinsed in hot water to get rid of any sort of exterior blemishes, or even sometimes they put a little wax on them for preservatives. So you can see that very green zest, none of the white. I've got a few dried pepper flakes from the habaneros we grew last year, which we dried. I'm going to put in there. So we're just going to mix all this together. I'm going to put a little of that lemon juice in there. And on the bottom of the oyster, what we're going to do is to put some of this kale, which has been shredded and then wilted. And we can use that as the base on which the oyster will sit. And we'll put some already toasted panko breadcrumbs on top, because this is a grill and not a salamander or a charbroiler that would have heat coming from the top. So it's as simple as this. Just take the oyster out. It's been cooked, it's still tender. Okay, just give that shell a little wipe to make sure there's no residual bits of sand or anything like that. We'll put the shredded cooked kale on the bottom, oyster on top. Take a fair amount of this butter here. And then the panko on top. And that's it, ready to go right in the grill. So the last thing you do is to put the oysters right onto the grill. Now they have that wilted kale, the cooked oyster, the compound butter, and the toasted panko right on top. So this will only take about 2 minutes. Grill happens to be as hot as 400 degrees, which is great. So butter is starting to bubble up there. That's really nice. Call this guy ready to go. Butter in this back corner. Nice example of a charbroiled oyster, Sag Harbor style.